Hello, good morning, everybody, or good evening if you're attending this from Europe. Thanks for joining. I'm with PrimeKey. My name is Harry Haramis, and I have Alex Gregory jointly doing this webinar with me today. Hopefully, everybody joined to learn more about PrimeKey's new cloud offering called EJBCA SaaS. That's going to be the focus of this webinar, and we've got some great information to share. What I wanted to start with first was a little bit of housekeeping rules before we dive in. So we're going to basically try to respect everybody's time here and keep this to 60 minutes. Please go ahead and use the GoToMeeting question function to ask any questions. If we see questions pop up that we can address right at the time, we will. Otherwise, we'll queue up the questions for the end of the seminar. We'll leave some time at the end to go ahead and go through those questions. And we'll also obviously, yes, follow up with a link to the recording and any other information here. And if there are any questions we can't get to during the webinar, we'll also definitely follow up after. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. So a little bit of background on PrimeKey. PrimeKey's been doing this for quite some time now. So the company's been around since kind of the 2001, 2002 timeframe. EJBCA is as you might know, is PrimeKey's main I would say flagship product. It's a fully featured PKI solution, and really our roots are in open source. So many of you know that EJBCA is still available as free open source, which is our EJBCA Community Edition. And I'll talk a little bit about how the company's evolved from that point. But we have some very large governmental and enterprise customers. They are using EJBCA for all of their certificate needs. I would say this is a modest number to say that if you looked at all of the certificates issued by EJBCA, it's been well into the billions of certificates issued. Also, when we release a new instance of EJBCA, a new version rather of EJBCA Community, we see about 50,000 downloads a year for that. So it's quite a well adopted PKI solution. And PrimeKey is a global company, so the headquarters are in Stockholm, Sweden. We have presence in Germany. This is where really our appliance and other hardware products are manufactured. And we have our office that we work out of in San Mateo, California, and we handle mainly the cloud development. So our EJBCA and Science Server Cloud products, as well as our SaaS solutions. We also are a full office of supporting all of PrimeKey's products with professional services, support, and sales. And finally, our newest addition is our Melbourne, Australia office, and this was PrimeKey's acquisition of Bouncy Castle recently. So I believe that was the beginning of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And so that this brings a huge amount of value into PrimeKey's universe, really, by bringing Bouncy Castle in natively. Next slide, please. So a little bit, again, I talked about, but I'll go into some of how PrimeKey's evolved, how EJBCA has evolved. So EJBCA has been this open source since about 2001. a lot of time went by where PrimeKey was basically building their business, and it was surrounding EJBCA. It was very much doing implementations and supporting EJBCA as an open source free product. Around the 2010-2011 timeframe, not depicted here, but EJBCA, PrimeKey spun off an EJBCA Enterprise edition, which is really, somewhat like the Red Hat model. We provided official support for the enterprise version, where the community is obviously community supported. At the time, it was still, EJBCA is very powerful, very flexible, but at the same time, it was, somewhat very tech heavy, not so straightforward to implement, which was a big reason why our professional services was key on every engagement. Our goal really since 2015 was to make EJBCA easier for everybody to consume. And our first stop along this, this journey was to create a EJBCA appliance. So this is our PKI appliance. It's been available since 2015, and it's been very successful for us. And this is a turnkey PKI solution with embedded HSM, ready to go with clustering, backups, upgrades, everything, reducing the total cost of ownership for an organization that needs a industrial strength PKI solution. Along the way, we added our EJBCA Cloud products. This was in 2018. This is when we first appeared on the AWS Marketplace, and then we followed that up with the Azure Marketplace. And since then have added Sign Server to these two marketplaces. We've added functionality to our products and added cloud wizards and other things to make EJBCA Cloud very easy to spin up and consume. The last piece that I would say that PrimeKey was missing was a full SaaS solution. This is what we launched in December 2020. This is really what I'll focus the rest of this seminar on. You'll see you'll see the benefits and how we differentiate our SaaS solution from others in the industry. Next slide, please. Just a little bit more information. I talked about our software and hardware in cloud. One thing I wanted to mention is from a hybrid perspective, this is an area that really, I think, where PrimeKey differentiates itself from maybe other technology or solutions available on the market. You can really mix and match. So we have customers, for example, that have the hardware appliance on-prem, handling their CA functionality, if you will, and then they might have high-performance OCSP responders in the cloud, possibly, and the two are connected in terms of the OCSP is populated real time as certificate revocation information changes. And you're able to scale this from a cloud perspective, but keep the security of an on-prem hardware-based CA. That's one potential use case. We've also seen where some customers serve some on-prem, maybe factory type of use cases with the hardware appliances on-prem, and then they serve some virtual or IoT or cloud type of use cases from CAs in the cloud. And those two can definitely coexist. And I think that's, as I said, a big differentiator for PrimeKey. And finally, we have our solution platform. And this is for very advanced, I would say, custom customers. So customers that still want our source code. Even our enterprise edition is open source. We can deliver that as source code, and it's part of our solution platform. And this is a kind of more of our site licenses and more of our advanced customers that are expecting to consume EJBCA in that manner, not in one of these packaged approaches. So at this point, what we want to do is I'm going to turn this over to Alex Gregory. Alex is going to kick off a demo of this SaaS solution. It takes a bit of time for to spin up the SaaS. It's all relative. PKI used to take months or weeks to spin up. Now we've got it to minutes. But still, in the purpose of keeping this at an hour, Alex will spin this up. I'll kind of take it back over, continue to talk through the SaaS product specifically, and then once the demo has been spun up, Alex will take it back over. So please, Alex, take it from here.
Thank you, Harry. So yeah, everything that I'm going to be going over through the whole provisioning process is available in our documentation in a launch guide. So if you were to go to doc.primekey.com and follow the link to EJBCA SaaS, everything that I'm going to talk about and go over is going to be here, including how to deploy EJBCA, what do the options mean, how to navigate the portal, which you'll see after we register here. And then even continuing on, which part I won't cover because this is more about the SaaS specifically itself, is how to configure EJBCA in SaaS. So the first thing we want to do is tell you how to find it. So this product is available in the AWS Marketplace. So if you navigate or just Google search for AWS Marketplace, and then once you're in there, you can search for EJBCA SaaS. And you'll see all of these different products. These 3 different products are essentially just where we deploy. They're the same functionally, they're the same cost, everything's the same, except you can pick whether you want to deploy in the US region, the AP region, or the EU region, so that your deployment can be closest to you. I'm just going to pick the EU region here, and that'll bring me to the listing. So there's lots of information here. We tell you a little bit about it, tell you where to get some documentation, show you the pricing, and there's different terms available. You can buy it for just 1 month at a time. You can go for 12, 24, or even 36 months. And we give you, obviously, the longer you commit, the cheaper it gets. So if I click, and assuming everything I like, I could continue to subscribe. That brings me over to where I can configure my terms. And here's those contract durations. And then when I do these contract durations, I can set it to whether I want it to auto-renew that contract. So if I am going month to month and I want to continue that contract, I can say yes. If I just want to, try it out for a month, I can say no, and then it won't keep billing you for that. And then we have options that you can go. So it's all sizing. This is pretty familiar for those of you that are familiar with the PrimeKey product portfolio. We do a lot of options based on sizes, capacity, throughput, and things like that. And SaaS follows into the same thing. So an extra small is more for test workloads. If you'd like to have a development environment or something like that, we can do that there. And then the small and medium will go up in size and also SLA. So that is all, again, here. We do have that in some of these documents that are here. Oh, the contract subscription options page. You can see the detail of all of the different deployments and what those entail. And then assuming that we'll go ahead and pick the small here, that'll show us our contract price, and then we would click create contract. That will then flip us over and redirect us to the EJBCA SaaS portal page where we'll register to get access to the portal, which will allow us access and start the EJBCA provisioning options. So if I go ahead and register here, and then select my country, and then click accept. And so this will register. This will generate an email. Oh, it looks like I might have, session might have timed out here. Let's see. Go back to my page and get my session. I've got a test token here that I use so that we don't pay ourselves. Let's try this again. Okay, so my session just timed out here. So this will generate an email, and that'll allow you to click in, and it will link your email back to the account here. So here you got a nicely formatted email here where they'll allow us to confirm our email. We'll bring that into here, and then we're allowed to log in with the credentials that we chose before when we registered. Okay, so once we're in, we need some options about your PKI. PKI, as we understand, are very specific to customers' environments. So one of the first things we ask you is, how do you want to access? What do you want us to call your PKI? I mean, it is a web-hosted PKI, and there's going to be a domain name associated with it, and you can pick what domain name you'd like us to provision for it. So let's use PrimeKey SaaS webinar. This will also create a management CA in the background, and I'll go into all of the pieces that this is going to deploy once it starts. But those of you that are familiar with EJBCA know that there is an admin CA or a management CA for your EJBCA interface, which generates things like a super admin certificate. And that super admin certificate is kind of like your root login to a Linux system or your administrator login to a Windows environment. That will get generated from this management CA, and we can change the name of it, or we can call it whatever we want. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a DN, and we're going to show you here the DN that we're going to create for that CA. And the super admin code is the code that we want to use to retrieve and protect our super admin cert. And then we need to gain access to the PKI, and we do that by giving it an IP address so that this thing's just not out on the internet wide open to everybody, which you could do if you wanted to do a 0.0.0, but we do allow you to specify CIDR ranges here. So you could do whole subnets for your organization, multiple subnets, whatever you see fit. And then after that, we click deploy, and that will start the provisioning process of the deployment. So in the background, we have quite a few things that are going on. So I'll go over what all these tabs are more towards the end after the deployment's complete and we get access to EJBCA. But we'll see that this provisioning request is submitting, which then starts our provisioner to deploy several different artifacts in our environment. So when it comes to EJBCA SaaS, there's a lot of great technologies that we've started doing, and all of these things, are largely provisioned for you on demand. So that's part of what takes a little bit of time for us to provision. It usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes for a deployment to happen in AWS. Part of that is us provisioning the database, the accounts, the KMS keys. We're doing everything in Kubernetes. So, if our Kubernetes cluster needs to grow, maybe that might play into it, so that we're growing with our customer base. Every customer gets their own RDS database. It's not like you're sharing a database with somebody else. We use SQS and SNS to get our portal to talk to our provisioner, so we're relaying messages back and forth through a queuing system. Route 53 is what is going to put that domain name that you choose out on the internet, and we're going to back that, put behind that an ELB, and we're going to load balance between our different containers. We're going to do it with a single region, but multiple availability zones. Later, we're going to expand upon that and do multi-region global deployments for a more federated PKI. That's something that's on our roadmap. We have I believe it's February 1st, we have a roadmap presentation for all of our PrimeKey products that I encourage you to check out LinkedIn, and you can find out what that the date and how to register for that. And then we also have KMS, and we do KMS a little bit differently. So here's all of the main artifacts for the PKI, but then KMS, we actually provision all of the KMS keys in a sub account. That makes it so that if you, for whatever reason, decide that you don't want to continue on with EJBCA SaaS, but you want the private keys to your certificate authority, we create the keys in a dedicated account that has whatever name you registered on it. So in this case, it would be EJBCA SaaS webinar or PrimeKey SaaS webinar. And then what we can do is if you ever decided to leave EJBCA SaaS, we can disconnect that account from ours and then give you an invitation to bring that account into yours, or just give you access so you have that account. That makes it so that you can take your keys with you, if you will, so you're not locked in. Now, AWS doesn't allow key exporting from KMS, so you are locked into having those keys in AWS, but most likely you're probably an AWS customer already. But the great news is that you own those keys and you can take them with you. And this is not something we charge for. It's just something that we want to make sure that then customers aren't locked into choosing our products. We also deploy the database with a hot standby, as well as another read-only replica in a whole other region. So it's pretty fault tolerant. We feel like we've architected this thing pretty well. It's pretty robust. We love the fact that we're using Kubernetes and containers, which is something that PrimeKey started dabbling in within the last couple of years. So you're definitely getting the latest and greatest when you start talking about EJBCA SaaS and us owning and operating your PKI for you. So the next slide, I think I'll hand it back over to Harry and allow him to continue on. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and check on the deployment and then retrieve some super admin certs and kind of run through some things. And I can even show you around the EJBCA itself once we gain access to it. So Harry?
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Sure.
So I'm going to take about 10 to 15 minutes and hopefully I won't bore you to death with some slides, but that'll give the SaaS enough time to finish provisioning, and then Alex can show you around from a demo perspective. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about what requirements we gathered from our customers. We've been doing this for a long time, right? Almost 2 decades. We hear and see a lot of things from our customers in terms of what they need in terms of the infrastructure and the support to run, to implement and run a proper PKI. So let me share some of these with you. Alex, can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So a few things really, have to come together to have a successful, I would say, PKI. And so in addition to having, the knowledge, so yes, of course, PrimeKey is available from a professional services perspective to help you stand it up correctly, but that's only really the initial part. Some of these PKIs at our customers exist for years. So there's, daily care and feeding. There's if your business is successful, you have to scale PKI, for example. You need to scale the capacity. You need to handle, different changes to your products and to the environment, and the use cases, things like that. So you really need to have in-house staff, I would say, to provide a PKI that's fully available for your business. Some of our customers literally have business continuity issues when their PKI is not available. Also, there's from a budget and cost perspective, there's an upfront investment required typically. So unless you use a SaaS like this, there's typically an initial investment you need to make, and it's it's potentially something that's not budgeted for or risk. So it's really a CapEx versus OpEx conversation. And so some customers are really looking for an OpEx type of investment. The kind of the new economy, the new cloud economy, the new SaaS economy, having things be subscription based without an upfront CapEx investment, not perpetual. And obviously, the more successful you are as a business, the more you have to quickly scale and quickly become global from a geography perspective. So it's very difficult for a startup or even a new business unit and a new product within a large organization to understand how successful their business endeavor will be. So it's really nice to start small, serve a few thousand or a few 100,000 certificates, for example, from one region. And if your use case, if your product or the reason why you have PKI in the first place is very successful and it grows faster than you imagined, well, it's a few clicks of the button to spin up an instance in another region on the other side of the planet. Very easy to scale up from an extra small to a small or small to a medium, for example. So we provide that without having months and months of planning and large investments that you need to make. Next slide, please. So we are taking a different approach here with our EJBCA SaaS. You'll see other PKI SaaS solutions in the market. They've been available for quite a long time. The approach that I think everybody in the market has taken so far is different from ours. Our approach is that we're providing you full access to EJBCA. So anybody here that has experience with EJBCA knows what I'm talking about. It is a full-blown, PKI solution. All the functionality you could ever expect. This isn't a situation where we're just, providing you TLS certificates, for example. This is, all of the functionality of EJBCA, and we are guaranteeing the availability of this functionality. So EJBCA SaaS, it really, if you think about it, it's providing an organization the guarantee that access to EJBCA will always be available, and that is from an administrator, coming in and making changes, to users that are coming in and requesting and potentially, approving certificates, to all of the devices around that are relying on this. Maybe you're a product company, you're a healthcare organization, you're an auto organization, and the availability of PKI is everything for you. You can't manufacture, you can't, your products don't function when your VAs are unavailable or when certificates can't be issued. You need to rely on a company like PrimeKey. So first of all, you need all the functionality of an EJBCA, and second of all, you need the guarantee that it's always available. And so this is really what EJBCA SaaS is providing to the market. Alex showed you some of the different subscription options. I'll go into those a little bit more in a couple seconds here with some more slides. So we're available in different sizes, geos, and eventually some different HSM options. Next slide, please. We talk a little bit about what I mean when I say full access to EJBCA. So, with EJBCA, you have some very advanced functionality across the board. So when it comes to CAs, there are, I would say hundreds of knobs in EJBCA. If anybody's ever seen the EJBCA admin, they're potentially overwhelmed by how much functionality there is there. I've never really met a customer that uses all of it. But if you take all of our customers and put them in a pool, they do use all of this functionality. So some functionality applies to one use case, other functionality applies to another. And when you sign up for EJBCA SaaS, you can rest assured that you have all of this EJBCA Enterprise functionality available to you, whether it's all of the CA, RA functionality, like all of our protocols we support, things like REST, EST, ACME, all these protocols and APIs that are available from an RA perspective. And of course, the human RA aspect, the web interface for requesters and approvers, for example. And then our validation authority, full functionality there. So full OCSP, high scale, high performance responder functionality from a VA perspective. The EJBCA Enterprise that you might be used to from running on our appliance or running a software is exactly what you get with EJBCA SaaS, but you just can take everything for granted under the hood. Next slide, please, Alex. Here are some of the just to list the top kind of vertical markets that we cater to. So we've got some managed SaaS customers today in some of these areas. Healthcare we see as being a great vertical for us. You see security being very important in a vertical like a healthcare. I mean, lives depend on it. There's, you look at financials, there's a lot of risk there that is mitigated by the use of things like certificates and code signing. So we see these verticals being addressed by EJBCA very nicely in one way or the other. And what I could say is from an IoT perspective, this is perfect. Again, you're an organization, you're either a startup or you're a small business unit within a larger organization that's launching a new IoT product. You can depend on a service like EJBCA SaaS to scale up with you. So as you're more successful, EJBCA SaaS can scale with you on demand. Next slide, please, Alex. So some of the I guess challenges that we help to alleviate is really when you look at any type staffing a data center, staffing and having geographic redundancy and geographic availability, and trying to do this on your own. We found some customers are basically just not in that business. That's not their core business. Their core business is to tend to their products and business, and really not become PKI experts or even I would say EJBCA infrastructure experts. This is what we take on for the customer, and we also see obviously a natural movement. Companies really kind of getting out of the data center business and moving their IT infrastructure and moving their any of their compute infrastructure around their products and services really into kind of cloud and SaaS environments. And so we have customers that have the same requirements for their PKI as well, moving that into these SaaS and cloud environments. And this is really what we're doing with the EJBCA SaaS. So, an SLA is key. So we guarantee, and I'll show you some of the specifics there of what we guarantee, but it's really kind of like a 99.9% uptime on our small and medium product at this point. And so this gives you the assurance that EJBCA will always be available. Next slide, please, Alex. So currently, as Alex mentioned, we support AWS KMS. So KMS is, it added asymmetric functionality recently. I would say, I think early last year, and we adopted AWS KMS support into EJBCA Enterprise natively. So this, of course, works natively in EJBCA SaaS. So that's here today. What's coming soon in the Q1 2021 timeframe is the EJBCA Cloud, AWS Cloud HSM being supported by EJBCA SaaS. So this will be another set of options in the AWS marketplace when you're spinning up AWS SaaS, EJBCA SaaS. So this will be available for small, medium, large, and extra large versions. And there's some advantages to using Cloud HSM. It's more expensive than KMS, but you have some additional functionality that you don't get with KMS. And we can, I think, take some questions on that if there are any. And we'll share some more information as we get closer to releasing Cloud HSM support for EJBCA SaaS. Next slide, please. So here are our various subscription sizes. And yeah, here are some details. I think, Alex, you might have skipped the slide. Oops. Maybe there's a, is there a transition?
Yeah, I think so. It should stop. Yeah, this is the one you want, right?
Yeah, sorry about that. I left the transition in.
Yeah.
So we've got, so today we're shipping, or what's available is our extra small, medium sizes. We'll have large and extra large available later this year. So this is more of kind of probably a Q2 to Q3 type of time frame from an availability for large and extra large. But we feel that, and I'll share what some of the capacity and characteristics are of what's available now, and larger than these capacities would be available later this year. But you can, essentially start with one size and always scale up. So you're able to, on the fly, go into the AWS Marketplace dashboard and scale up from a small to a medium, for example. This is great for going from a non-prod to a prod, type of an arrangement, and you're not paying for a prod type of scale without your business being in the shipping mode yet. So I think this works well for our customers. And again, we can't stress this enough, as Alex said, the no vendor lock-in I would say it's a big attribute for us. So one of the things that ties you to one CA or PKI or another is really, where are your private keys? And if your private keys are stuck with the vendor, you're essentially locked in. So I think it's, PrimeKey's core value is to always avoid this vendor lock-in. Even when you looked at EJBCA software or other ways that we've always delivered EJBCA, you're able to, point to any HSM you want. You're able to migrate away from us or migrate another PKI to us. And we strive to not give a customer any reason to want to move away from our solutions, right? But in the case that things change, you can always take your keys with you. Next slide. And so we'll get into some details here. So here are some of the pricing specifics. I think Alex might have giving you a snapshot of this earlier on the AWS page. But there are, we're essentially available on a month-to-month commit, and there are the prices for extra small, small or medium month-to-month. Or if you commit to and pay for a year upfront, there's substantial discount that you'll see. And we also have a 2-year and a 3-year commitment. So if you're able to commit and pay upfront, there's quite a substantial savings. And there's the SLA that I talked about. So in our extra small EJBCA SaaS, we're only providing a 99% SLA, and this is really we're trying to give the customer the feeling that this extra small is not meant for production use. This is for proof of concepts. This is for dev, test, staging environments. This is where uptime, you don't need to pay for this SLA. Small and medium, on the other hand, this is where you might have, this is where you would have production workloads, either corporate IT workloads on a small, and a medium might be where you have kind of larger production IoT workloads, for example, where you're trying to scale with the internet being the source of the use case. Next slide, please. Here are some key features, key differentiators between our sizes. So look at the key numbers there. Is the capacity, both from an overall number of certificate active certificate capacity, and as well as our new certificates per second capacity. So based on your requirements, it might help you select which size is most appropriate for you. Also, if you look at where we're targeting Cloud HSM, we're not targeting that for our extra small. That would always be KMS. For our small and medium, we will be adding Cloud HSM option. And you'll see some performance differences for certificate issuance as well as OCSP responses. We'll provide that once we have Cloud HSM. And we'll make that public at the time. And you'll see some other, various differences from a geography perspective. When we come with the large and extra large, you'll see that we'll be in multiple regions. So currently, all the way even up through medium, you select one region, but we are in multiple availability zones within that region. So if you're an organization that needs multiple regions, currently you can subscribe to multiple, smalls and mediums, for example, and we can of course work with you on some custom pricing there. But when it comes to large and extra large, we will have multiple regions available out of the box. Next slide, please, Alex. And here are some of the key features that you get regardless of size that you select. So you'll always get a dedicated root instance. You'll get full control, full EJBCA access, all of the functionality that you expect with EJBCA. So I think what I want to do at this point now is turn this back over to Alex, not take up any more time, and get you right to the meat of this presentation, which is the demonstration.
Sure, thanks, Harry. Looks like it is almost done here. It's creating a management CA. These last couple percentages go pretty quick. Yeah, there you go, 90%. Super average. Perfect timing. So this is the dialogue that comes up once everything is completed. We also allow you to give you links back to your cluster directly. And at the same time, we do have this information available in our support tab. So, if for some reason you close this or skip past it without reading, because not everybody reads dialogues, you can always get this information after the fact. So I'm going to navigate over here. So I'm getting a certificate warning because this EJBCA CA didn't exist, 10 minutes ago. So it issued certificates to our containers that are running EJBCA, and my browser obviously doesn't know that CA was just created. So we're going to accept this risk and move past it, and then log in with the password that we chose in the deployment. To retrieve the super admin cert. So we're going to enroll so we can download the certificate. I'm going to save this locally and then import that into our browser. Okay, so we can close that, go back to our SaaS. This tells me how to import it, and then now I can click on this to go to the EJBCA admin interface. And here we're going to get prompted for the cert that we just imported, and then we're brought into EJBCA. In EJBCA, we do provision you a dedicated root CA and a dedicated issuing CA cluster. So your management CA is on your issuing CA node. In here, you can see two different KMS crypto tokens, one for the management CA, where you have your keys for your management CA, and then we provision an empty issuing CA token with just a test key to make it so that the health check works. From there, we're hosting EJBCA for you. So there you're encouraged to create your own keys. So you have access to your keys, you know that they were created by you, and then you can go and create your CAs. We also, as I said, give you a dedicated offline root. So the root is authenticated with the same certificate as the issuing CA cluster. So that way you don't have different credentials for that. And in that as well is there is no CA, of course, but we do have the crypto token there, so you can go and create your root CA as you choose, again, with just a test key in KMS. We do give you control to start and stop your root CA as you choose. So it's a fully controlled. We actually run it for up to a day. We'll run it for 24 hours because generally root CAs don't need to be running for very long, usually only to sign an issuing CA or update a CRL, populate an OCSP database, whatever it might be. So here you can stop and start your root CA, and it will report the status back here for you. There are other links inside of EJBCA. We do give you links, easy links to the documentation, but if you needed access to your EJBCA issuing CA cluster interfaces, here they are for the admin web, RA web, public web, links to your root CA, and also links to where you're going to find your CRL CDPs as well as your OCSP AIA URLs. You can go into the source IP access page, and this is where you would add more IP addresses. So somebody asked inside of the questions, can I use my own RA or my own VA in my own DMZ? And the answer is absolutely, you can. So you would add the outbound IP address of those nodes here, and then that would allow them to talk to EJBCA. And then you would go and configure your peer systems, because again, you have full access to EJBCA. You would go and configure your peer systems just like you would in any other EJBCA Enterprise deployment. So we do have dedicated VA builds. We're also working on putting together dedicated RA builds of EJBCA Cloud. So if you were to go into the AWS marketplace and instead of searching for EJBCA SaaS, you just search for EJBCA or even PrimeKey, you would see our cloud products there, and you would be able to start a cloud node and configure that to use the management CA cert from here, and again, have single authenticated access to the entire environment with a single credential. Next, we did the root C already. We have some compliance links here. So there's an FAQ for some compliance questions that might come up if any ever came in. We also have access to CP and CPS template packets. So if you would like a base template packet to get started so you can draft a CP and CPS document for your organization, we can create you essentially what we have here available for you as a foundation for that, so that you're not starting from scratch, and then you can take that and tailor it to your organization. This is also something, as we note down here, that we can help you through if you need help drafting something like this. If you contact sales@primekey.com, we can engage with professional services to do really anything in here, whether it's create CP/CPS documentation, if you need help configuring EJBCA and getting all the certificate authorities and profiles and all that stuff up and running, we can absolutely help you with that as well. Just because this is EJBCA SaaS doesn't mean we can't also help you with it if you want that option. And then the support tab. So if you, again, needed to access your EJBCA credentials to download them, if you missed that dialog box the first time, here you can get that. Documentation links to give you to EJBCA SaaS specific documentation, which I showed you back here. As well as if you want to contact support. Here we can issue, you would go to the support portal, or this will start an email so you can draft an email to support. The other thing we have here is a feedback form. So, we just added this to EJBCA SaaS, where you can give us access or excuse me, feedback on anything that you want with regards to the product. Is this something about the dashboard that you'd like to see? Something about the links page, source IP page? Are you having a problem somewhere? Do you want to give us feedback on EJBCA specifically, or even just some general feedback? You can absolutely do that. Type in a message here, send feedback, and we'll receive that. We can either create a support ticket. We can take that and create, feature requests from a product management standpoint, or really anything. So we encourage our users to give us feedback and let me know what we're doing right, and let us know what we can improve on. With that, this dashboard provides some basic reporting. So here's the overall system health of your node. So if your issuing CA cluster was not reporting back healthy for any reason, that would turn into a red beacon. We also show you how many certificates were generated. In this case, it was 4, 1 for each container, 1 for the root container, and the super admin cert. So 4 total certificates. This one here gets updated a little bit slower, so because it's a more complex query into the database, but so we don't want to tax the database too much. But this will go and show you any spikes. Say you're humming along normally and you generate, between 20 and 30 certs a day, maybe it's 100, 200 certs a day, and all of a sudden you have a spike to 800. You might want to know about that and know what was causing that spike. And then the profiles. What profiles are used to issue certificates? And again, this one gets updated at a little different interval so that we're not taxing them. And then here we show you all of the certificates that are expired. I know you got just updated with the remainder. All the certificates that are expired, upcoming, expiring. So if you generated a certificate for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, or even if that certificate that you generated a year ago was coming up and it was about to expire, we'll show you those here. And then you can always go into EJBCA and find out which one that is. So we'll give you a little bit of visibility into your cluster. That's something that you don't typically get with the standard EJBCA Enterprise. And we're going to be looking to expand upon this going forward and create more graphs and reports and drill down and things that are downloadable. With that, I think I can hand it over to Harry. Well, I guess I can cover on these. These are some of the things that I've gone over here. So the EJBCA specific SaaS documentation, the product page on the PrimeKey website, you can get information there. And we have 3 links to each of the 3 regions, whichever one you're interested in. And then they'll link directly to signing up on the AWS Marketplace.
Perfect. Yeah, we've got a few questions and a few minutes left. So let me try to address these. So there was a couple of questions 20 minutes ago or so that was around a hybrid solution and having, it sounds like CAs on-prem, EJBCA on-prem as CAs, and having RA functionality in the cloud. So having protocols and probably like protocols like EST and SCIP and CMP and ACME on the SaaS or in the cloud? And the answer is yes. That's a perfect use case for this. This is where this EJBCA SaaS would be peer connected back to your on-prem EJBCA installation. And you can have the EJBCA SaaS take all the protocol requests. So either humans coming into the RA web to request or approve, as well as having devices and anything else point to the RA functionality in SaaS for REST API access, web services, or any of those protocols that I mentioned, like ACME, CMP, things like that. So that is absolutely possible and a great hybrid scenario. Another question that we have is, how does one migrate from on-prem to this? And how do you migrate your on-prem EJBCA to SaaS? And so there are quite a few ways to answer this. Sometimes it's not a forklift situation. You have to remember the things with migrating a PKI really is around where are your private keys, and if those exist on an HSM, the idea is that those private keys can't leave. So sometimes it's best to have a migration strategy where you're bringing up a new parallel CA that's signed by the same root. So for example, you might have an on-prem self-signed root, an on-prem self-signed issuing CAs that are hanging off that root, right? And so a great use case would be to bring up new issuing CAs in this EJBCA SaaS and have those signed by your on-prem root. So now you have certificates that are coming off of the same trust chain. And you can even have those CSP responders in the EJBCA SaaS that are answering responses for your on-prem CAs and for your new SaaS CAs. So there are ways to do this, and it doesn't always mean that you have to forklift your on-prem CA with its keys and its CA certificate database and everything, and have that be your migration approach. It doesn't have to be that, but if it does have to be, there are potential ways that we can work with you, and this is sometimes a professional services engagement that PrimeKey would help you with. Another question that we had is, so somebody asked, can you create a sub CA, issuing CA under the same root in the current demo? So I think with this is really the key functionality for this. So the approach that we're taking here is that you spin up, so you purchase, you basically provision your organization in EJBCA SaaS instance, and what you get is a self-signed root that's done in an automated fashion for you, and then you're looking at basically a blank slate from a PKI perspective. And the idea there is that you are creating sub CAs, and those sub CAs are being signed from this new self-signed root that we created for you. So that's absolutely the approach of the product.
Actually, just specifically to address, so that's the self-signed root that Harry's talking about is the management CA. So the management CA is essentially a root CA that does issuing of administrative credentials. And then we create two nodes, if you will, the issuing CA cluster and a root CA node. That root CA node doesn't have any CAs configured on it. All it has on it is essentially a crypto token that will hold the keys for you, because we don't want to assume that just because we're housing EJBCA for you, that you also want us to automatically create a bunch of keys magically in the background. So through the guides, we have step-by-step guides on how to do all this and how to create and sign back and forth. That's this getting started guide. If I can. So we don't have enough time to fully go and create all these CAs for you. But in the documentation here, if you were going to go to the launch guide, part of this would be the configure EJBCA and EJBCA SaaS, and we show you how to create a CA, a root CA, create the profiles for that, create the keys in the crypto token for your root CA, create the keys for your issuing CA, and then you would set a CSR to go, and you would download a CSR from your issuing CA, bring it over to your root CA, and sign that after your root was created. So we do walk you through all of that, and that is all here in very detailed fashion to create everything that you need to get that going. So, you know, and this is all publicly available documentation, and those of you that are familiar with EJBCA also will be familiar with a lot of this process. It's instead of you running EJBCA, we're running it for you in the background, and really providing you access to resources. We're providing you access to a crypto token that is backed by a KMS HSM. But then it's on you to go and configure all of the keys for you inside of that. Now, again, to extend upon that, we can do several different things even beyond that. One is we can engage with you from a professional services standpoint to do all of this configuration with you, for you, however you see fit. Or we can do, if there's some kind of other facet of a PKI deployment that you want totally customized that doesn't fall into this bucket of how this repeatable deployed SaaS methodology, then that's something that we can absolutely handle for you from a managed environment. We have several environments that we're managing for customers today, as well as SaaS environments. So, you know, we encourage you to reach out to us, and we can absolutely find a solution that will fit any of your use cases that you have out there.
All right. So with that, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We're a minute over, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and we'll answer any of the questions that we were not able to answer. There's at least 2 or 3 of them. We'll definitely take those offline and get your responses back, and we'll have a series of seminars. We'll try to you know, add information as we go. So please do come to the future webinars, or you know, ask your colleagues to come and listen to this too, and we'll follow up with all the recorded session information and everything else. Thank you everybody for your time today, and hope to talk to you next time.
Thank you.